Married at First Sight Boston Decision Day Dish, or Decision Day Dish Boston, I should say. So we had a nice little round table panel of past contestants, as well as I don't know if she's going to be the new host going forward, or I don't know. I was thinking, because I saw like a clip of this, and I was really excited to watch it last night, even though I know everybody's just looking for towards decision day. And I saw that was it just me, or was I don't know. I felt like I saw the other guy. What's his name that usually does it? The bald hair guy, the bald headed guy. I thought I saw him, but maybe I was just mistaken or whatever. But they had Rizzo. Her last name is Rizzo. Is she? Where do you guys know her from? Is she from YouTube, or I'm not sure. I saw her once before. Her hair was different, like it was like curly. But anyway, okay. So we had the All Stars. Okay, we had Keith and Christine. We had AJ and Stephanie. We had Gil. We had Mika, my girl, and Paige. So this was interesting. This was very, very interesting. So let's get started off. So first of all, they were talking about Steve and Noy and the financial situation. So Gil, of course, Gil the dust bucket, right? Gil had a whole makeover, and we are going to get into fashions later on, because I just have to say that I was like really like very much looking at like what people were wearing and the hair and the makeup and stuff like that. But yeah, Gil got a little makeover or whatever. He had on this little outfit. He was dressing basically how we expect him to dress during these type of like reunions and things. But the difference was is that he got his teeth done. He got his gap filled in, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. So anyway, they're talking about the finances, and of course, Gil's behind. Of course, totally agrees with Steve, and AJ is like, well, you got to give him a chance. Like, see, AJ and Stephanie, where they're coming from as well. Well, okay, he's an entrepreneur, or AJ is an entrepreneur as well. So Stephanie had to, think about, oh, what's this gonna be like? If he's making his own money, it's not a steady income or whatever. But I mean, hey, they're living in the Florida Keys. Apparently, he knows how to bring in enough money for them to be able to have that lifestyle. The Florida Keys is not a cheap place to live. They're scuba diving in their backyard. They're having a good time. So I guess in his case, the entrepreneurship is working out because he's making enough to like sustain their kind of carefree lifestyle. So that's good for them. Keith and Christine, well, it's been a while since we've seen them, right? Because these are from like far back past seasons. But Keith and Christine, I felt like Christine was a little bit more understanding towards the whole financial situation. But yeah, but Mika, listen, because we already know what Mika went through with that guy. What's his name? Michael or something like that, the yoga instructor. He was lying through his teeth about him having a job, or the kind of job that he said he had. It was just a whole mess, right? So anyway, Mika's like, listen, hey, if of course she's gonna be afraid, because coming from the kind of background she came from, and Mika also, I guess, came from humble beginnings, and considering what she went through, it was like it was almost like Mika wanted to say, yeah, girl, I know, I totally feel you on that one. And then let's see who else was chiming in on that. Well, Paige, he didn't have anything to say, and yeah, like I said, Gil was defending him. Okay, so then let's go to Mike and Jasmina. Well, they didn't spend much time on Mike and Jasmina because there's basically no meat in the sandwich, right? She's not into him. And, I don't know. We'll see, if they just go ahead and both decide to say no on decision day. Hopefully they will. I mean, come on. That's just, I don't know. It's water torture watching them together. So, let's see. So Mike and Jasmina, okay, so Paige chimes in that she loves them together. And I was like, oh my God, of course she would. There's zero chemistry between these two, but she loves to see them together, whatever. All right, and then Gil says that he thinks that Mike should go ahead and be a little bit more aggressive and to just like try to kiss her or something like that. But, it's like, are you stupid? Like, you gotta read the room. Like, does Jasmina look like she wants to be kissed? I do not think so. And then we go over to Keith. Now, Keith said that like he understood where Jasmina was coming from, and Mika had a totally opposite opinion. But I thought to myself, like, I wonder if them coming from kind of similar backgrounds. I mean, Keith's family is Jamaican, and so is Jasmina. So maybe he's just kind of used to that kind of very straightforward type woman. I'm not sure. But yeah, so then, all right, so that was Jasmina and Mike. All right. Oh, so now when she started, or Rizzo started to ask them about Mark and Lindsay. So Paige, of course, she really likes Lindsay. Paige, poor, bless her heart. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that, Lindsay doesn't have good qualities about her, but we all know that she is an explosion waiting to happen. That's a police call waiting to happen. I mean, she's a bit much. Now AJ liked her because now I remember when they had, like, when they first opened up the episode and we saw AJ, I'm like, oh, I remember him. That was the guy that talked a lot. I remember his wife saying at the time, like, oh, his energy is so much. So he was the most in defense of Lindsay because I think Lindsay reminds him of himself in some way. But what we did not see with AJ was like venomous. But I remember him being a little bit like, he was getting a little bit, he was a bit much though too with his attitude, but it was nothing on the level of a Lindsay. So let's see. So now we go to Gil. Okay, so Gil likes Mark, which of course, I mean, I'm sure he would. Gil is more like a guy's guy, right? And you guys know me, I'm a girl's girl. Especially, I'm a feminist anyway, so that doesn't, I mean, it just goes to, and it goes without question. So okay, I mean, it was funny how, like, and even within the couples, they had different opinions about different couples. But when we got to Katina and Olajuwon, oh boy, that's when it got good. Finally. So when she asked about Katina and Rizzo, listen, I don't know much about Rizzo, but the fact that she doesn't like Olajuwon, I was like, okay, I'm down with you, girl, because you all know how I feel about him, right? And AJ goes, he said, what did AJ say about him? He says, he's like, oh, he's gonna be a bad husband. Something's off with this guy. He's shady. I was like, yes, read him. Because we've been waiting. That's like, AJ's the only person that's really come on there and said that many things about Olajuwon. I mean, I think that host, if she, or I should say the hostess, I bet if she could, she probably would have read and dragged Olajuwon for filth, but she couldn't because she had to host. But anyway, but yeah, so like some people were like who was it? Keith was like, oh yeah, I like him. I think he has potential. I was like, Keith, here you go. Here's the man who wanted his wife to cook and do all this stuff too. Now the difference between a Keith and an Olajuwon is that um the difference is that, I mean, from what we knew, Keith did not have a reputation, at least, of being a womanizer. Keith, he was just like very spoiled by his grandmother. Remember, they showed his grandma and she was cooking, and I think there was a scene of her cooking in the kitchen. But he was very close to his grandmother, and he was like a spoiled guy. So I remember thinking, God, is Christine gonna be able to handle this? Because she's gonna really have to, like, kind of baby him a little bit. So it sounds like Keith has gone through some different career changes, because I remember, because he said that he was in nursing, but now he's a med tech. But when he was on the show, he was a dialysis technician. I remember that specifically. And because I know dialysis technicians, even without a nursing license, make very good money. I mean, if you can like really hustle, and if you don't have any kids and you can work like 4 or 5 days, I mean, you can make like definitely well over $1,000 a week. I mean, which is pretty good for someone who doesn't have any college, right? So, yeah, I just feel like Christine has kind of had to, you know, I don't know, hold his hand a lot, let's just say. I'm not really sure. But I mean, they seem to be happy. And, even though I didn't like a lot of the little opinions that Keith had, still overall, I don't, Keith is not a bad guy to me. Olajuwon to me is a total incomplete, you know what, all right? And he's a bad guy. He's like a villain. I can't stand him. I can't stand the way he treats Katina. So what else were they saying when they were chiming in about Katina and Olajuwon? Oh, so Mika said that he needs that basically Katina needs to step up and to speak, to speak up basically, right? Because she hasn't been speaking up for herself, and I can't even argue with that, I mean, that's true. And Gil, oh my God, he's like, yeah, well, I just think he's really ambitious, and he's got a he's really working hard and stuff. And I'm like, listen, we are not going to measure levels of ambitious, drive with you, Gil. You are not the metric for that. Okay. Hello. All right. So, okay. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Let's get into the shady stuff, right? Let's be petty. So let's look at the fashions. Okay, so I wanted to see like what everybody was wearing. So, all right, so starting from the left side of the stage, working all the way around. So the first person was AJ. Now AJ had on a nice suit. Now his socks, I understand doing an accent sock, just for that pop of color, but it was too much. The yellow was just too opaque. It should have been more of a like a light paler sort of lemonade. The tone was okay, but it was just too opaque. It was too much. Like the socks really stood out too much. But the suit was good, and the suit fit well. Now I'm going over to Stephanie. Now Stephanie, she had on like this little sleeveless, kind of, I don't know what you call that. It was popular in the late 90s where it's like that and then sleeveless. And that was, I mean, I was okay. I mean, listen, they live in Florida. That's not, Key West. The uniform there is like Mardi Gras beads and flip flops and like a bikini. So whatever. It wasn't really my cup of tea. If I were her stylist, I definitely would have dressed her differently. Now going over next to Keith. And Keith had on a green suit. Now that is my favorite color green, which he's wearing, like that kind of really dark, rich, like a, oh, my camera came undone here. Like that really like dark, rich, sort of like a forest green, which is nice, but unfortunately his shirt, the wearing like the light blue shirt with that, and the shirt seemed to be a little bit ill-fitted. It was like a no for me. And the socks were not working with that. If you want to do that dark green, that's almost like a statement color. You have to be very careful. You have to wear maybe like a white shirt or something like that. You can't do the light blue. It just didn't. Dark green and light blue can work in certain contexts, but in certain instances, I should say, but not. It didn't work in that instance. So then Christine was wearing like this. I don't know. It was like a mustard colored jumpsuit with like see-through panels. I mean, well, I guess I kind of have see-through panels as well, but this was more like see-through panels on a modern scale. Now, I'm not really a fan of most modern clothing. I usually like older stuff. I like vintage stuff, right? So I know I'm not the best judge for this, but jumpsuits are really not my thing. I have to be honest. I mean, but I guess it wasn't terrible. I have a feeling like it was more one of those things where it looked probably, how you buy something and it looks good on the rack but doesn't look good on you. I think it probably didn't look that great on the rack, but she wears it better than it actually looked on the rack. That's how I feel about it. It's not my style, but it wasn't the worst. And you could see like some boobage through the little see-through panel or whatever, but it wasn't too bad or whatever. But I do like the color of her heels. It was it looked like a chocolate suede or something. Those were nice. And then going over to Paige, I'm not the biggest fan of like a one shoulder in a modern dress. I like it in some actually more like ethnic and traditional clothing, but not so much in a modern dress as much. But it wasn't terrible. The problem with what she was wearing was the color. That dark blue, kind of like a royal blue, which is a really gorgeous color, you have to have the right tone. So with her, she needs something that will bring out her tone, and because whoever did her makeup, but we'll get onto the makeup later, it just was not working with her. Now going over to Gil, Gil was actually wearing the same color that she was wearing. It didn't seem to be quite as bad on him, but that's because Gil wasn't wearing makeup, or at least not, you know, as maybe like a little bit of powder they do, just for filming, but he wasn't wearing makeup like how a woman typically wears. So, um, the color wasn't terrible, but that wasn't the best color for him. I didn't like the really high ankles. I mean, what is up with these high ankles? I'm just not into the high ankle look. I mean, it's been around for what, like 12 years now. It's too much, and you got to be skinny for that too. You cannot, listen, when you have a very round derriere, which he does have, you can't wear that. It just doesn't work out. Okay, so let's go to the next person and the last person, Mika. So Mika, this was an absolute, like, the shape for her body and the color were excellent. So we have three people that were sitting all next to each other on that side of the room, who all have a similar skin tone, right? But Mika, hers popped. It brought the red out of her, right? And versus the blue, it's more drab, and it's more like, it gives you like an ashier kind of tone. It doesn't work. Mika's, it was like a scarlet crimson orangey kind of color, works so beautiful with her skin tone. Okay, so now we're gonna do hair and makeup. Let's go right back around the corner. Okay, so starting with AJ. AJ, I mean, it was so-so. It wasn't, he's like a typical straight male, right? You're not gonna do much with the hair, but it looked fine. It looked fine. Stephanie, now Stephanie, listen, Stephanie, and I remember this when she was on the season earlier. Stephanie has a very fine, wispy hair texture, as well as the density is not very thick as well. At least it appears that way. So I couldn't tell if some of that hair, as she was wearing it down, if some of that was behind the ear, or if it was just quite that thin. So in her case, if the hair was behind the ear, then we need to take all the hair out so we get full thickness here, especially to kind of to sort of hug the face like this. That's the way a bob, gives you the best shape. And if she did not have a lot of hair behind her ear, and I'm incorrect in her hair, that was all her hair down, it's just to that thin density, that is when you then either opt for something with some kind of curls or some sort of waves. You can do hot rollers, or she could have, the easiest way for maintenance would be to get a bang, right? Because I think Stephanie's best feature are her eyes. She has those very kind of like, they're sort of almond shaped eyes. They're big and almond shaped. So with a bang right there, now you're putting a lot of focus here and here, right? So I think that would have complemented her a little bit better. All right, going over to Keith. Well, he's a guy. He keeps his hair short. His hair looked great. Keith has that, that hairline from the gods. The ones that start down here, which is like, it's a gift. When that hairline starts to recede, then it'll be like at a normal, placement. So his hair looked good, nice fade. Everything looked good. Christine. Now Christine was wearing a wig, and a wig that did not look wiggy. Her wig looked good. It really did. She didn't have all that extra unnecessary baby hair and all of that stuff. It just looked good. It looked subtle. Like if you saw it from so she had it like on the parted side, and then this is the side that comes down. So if you had only seen it from the side that comes down and not the parted side, you might have thought that that was her hair. I mean, it looked pretty good. It really looks good for a wig. Okay, let me just preface the statement with that. So next we go to Paige. And let me tell you something. Paige was the ladies MVP of the day with the hair. Her hair looked great. Now, listen, I think probably because she got dragged through the YouTube streets about that part. Okay, remember how the part was like this wide on that old wig that she had? Oh my God, I felt embarrassed for her. That was terrible. Like, you don't have any friends, you don't have any people to tell you, like, that's not a good thing. You're going on television. So she must have taken all of that into consideration because her hair looked excellent. Now she was wearing extensions, mind you, but it looked good. I mean, it wasn't obvious where the extent. Well, I mean, oh, I'm a stylist, so of course I can see it. And you don't have to be a stylist. Some people, because they've just been wearing hair for years, or they've been around people that have been wearing, hair pieces, additional hair, whatever, for so long, they can recognize it. But I would say just walking down the street, with an untrained eye, it would have looked fine. I mean, the blend looked to be pretty decent. I mean, it looked good. I mean, it just, her hair looked nice. That was probably the best we've seen Paige look with her hair. Gil, well, he doesn't have any hair, so but his shave was good. We didn't see any bumps, and we know that he suffers from that. And listen, that's not an easy thing. I don't want to downplay that. To get razor bumps, it's like I mean, I heard people last year say, "Oh, somebody should, you should pay money to get rid of that." Listen, you cannot control the way the hair grows out of the follicle. Like I just, there's no way to do that. Now they have, like, the different, like, that shaving powder is supposed to help out with stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the hair is going to do what it's going to do. So either you use a clipper to keep it very, very short to be like at a consistent 5 o'clock shadow, or you just go ahead and let it grow in full, which I think is the best idea. But I understand for his job, he can't do that. So, but yeah, so he got his teeth done. He got his gap filled in. I just didn't think that that was necessary. I mean, you know, it's, I mean, the gap was so small, and maybe that was probably something that he was always been like self-conscious about. So it's like, oh, now I got the money, I can finally get it fixed. But here's the thing though, when he turned to the side, the rest of the teeth were yellow. So when you get your dental work done in the front, it's like it's a veneer process, right? Where they'll shave down and they'll adhere something onto the tooth. But then it's not going to be an exact, I mean, they try to get it as close as possible, but it's not going to be an exact match to the other teeth that are not done. So he's smiling with these two bright white front teeth, and then the rest are like, and I would never say that Gil has, like, gross yellow teeth. I would never say that. It's just, but once you get a veneer done, you're a normal white, which has a little bit of a yellow tone to it naturally, it's going to look extra yellow next to the veneer. So you got to get them all done. That's the thing with veneers. That's how they get you. Okay. So let's go into to Mika. Okay, Mika was next with the hair. So okay, Mika has really beautiful hair, and her hair is massively thick. Okay, another one, blessed by the hair gods, a lot of hair. I just was kind of, I would have, if she's gonna do the ponytail, it was a good style for her for sure. Especially because Mika has very striking, like, eyes and eyebrows. Like, this is her best feature right here, I think. I just would have gotten the ponytail, maybe buy a ponytail that has a little bit more texture, because she has a lot of waves to her hair, right? So I would have liked to see the waves, kind of like the ponytail that Rizzo was wearing, a little bit more textured, something like that. I think would have been better with Mika's ponytail. And okay, listen, I have to address the slicked edges because it was a stage full of slicked edges, right? And I just felt that that was not very flattering because it actually made her edges look very thin. Just doing this 1, 2, 3 thing. I know that's kind of been the style, but I still think if you're gonna do a gelled edge, it still needs to be more subtle. And our hostess, she had that as well. And we've seen her hair. She has like a loose curly hair, which does not necessarily mean that she has baby hairs, but usually does come with baby hair. So it's kind of like you just use the natural baby hairs instead of, doing the plaster down thing. It's not, but I mean, they're more modern. So that's more like that modern fashion stuff, but it's just not my, I mean, I would, like, if I had a client and they said, okay, I want you to give me like really swooped, baby hairs like that, I would absolutely not do that. That's just, I don't feel like it's very flattering. Now, a little bit of, like, where it looks natural, I think is fine. But when it looks very, deliberate, it just, I don't know, it's just not really my thing. Again, maybe, like I said, because I have a very different style aesthetic, I just don't find it to be, the coolest or whatever. Now, the hostess, like I already said that about the hair, but now what she was wearing was very interesting because she had like the oversized blazer on, And she was wearing something before when we saw her the first time. I wasn't really crazy about the outfit, and I wasn't really crazy about this outfit either. Now the red does work with her skin tone, but I just didn't. I wasn't really feeling it. It reminded me of Katina in the early episode. She was wearing this really really huge oversized blazer, and I was like, "Is this?" And I saw it a couple other places on some TV shows, reality TV shows. I said, so is this it? Is this like the new style now? Like, is everybody wearing like oversized blazers? Like, it just was really interesting to me. And Katina was like swimming in that blazer, and Rizzo, that's more it. Well, it's still. I don't know. I'm not really with the very baggy clothes. I'm just not with them. And lastly, let's talk about makeup. Okay, so going around the circle again. So the first woman would be Stephanie. Now Stephanie, kudos to Stephanie. She got an eyebrow makeover. Listen, those eyebrows that she had before were just they should have been illegal. Okay, she could have got a citation for those things. They were so arched and thin like this, very like mid to late 70s, kind of. It was. I don't know if you guys ever remember, like if you're old enough, you remember in the 80s, sometimes you would have neighbors or aunties and they couldn't even grow their brows anymore because they tweezed them to oblivion in the 70s. She had that. I mean, it was bad, but the way she looked last night, that was great. That was such an upgrade. Her and Paige definitely made some upgrades, okay? Getting over to Christine. Well, Christine always looks good. Christine always does a natural look with like a nice, a bold lip. Well, not necessarily bold, but like, a nice lipstick or something. So she looked great. It matched her complexion, everything. She looked great. Okay. Now going over to Paige. Well, that was a different situation. Okay. Whoever is doing Paige's makeup needs to give her something that is not, it's like it ashens her, like it gives her a gray tone. And then you mix that with that blue, it does not flatter her whatsoever. So she needs something. If I were her makeup artist, I would be giving her a little bit of a red. I would mix something for her. I would get something closest to her color, and then I would add something with a lot of red tone into it to give her. She needs tone, and then I would make sure that whatever she's wearing is complementing that, so she can look better. Now, um, that's yeah. Just the blues don't work for her. My goodness. Okay. So then, we're gonna skip Gil and then go over to Mika. Now, Mika, hit it out the park once again. Makeup so good. I mean, just so good. Like, you could just, like, if you look at her face and you look at her arm, you could see the red tone out of her arm. Like, the makeup was drawing that red tone out of her skin, and you could see it on her arm. Like, Mika has that. I mean, Mika just has a really flawless skin to begin with. I mean, sometimes it's just not even fair because some people just, I meir their skin is just pretty. And, she just has that kind of skin that reflects light very beautifully. And whoever does her makeup, I don't know, they do a good job. But, I mean, I feel like most of them get decent makeup jobs um, throughout this whole, I don't know, the whole series, with the exception, the ones that stand out to me that had the worst makeup always, every episode, was Paige and what was the girl? Virginia. Oh my God, that purple eyeshadow when she showed up on her wedding day. And so was that, what was the girl that was married? The Jewish couple. The one who was the doctor, who Bennett and something, Bennett's wife. Her makeup looked a complete mess too. Terrible. So, okay, that's it basically. All right, we covered, their predictions and everything. I'm excited for next week. The needle has not moved, in my opinion, in terms of where I think these couples are going to be and who I think they're going to choose. I'm still okay, so let me just go over it now. I'll give you my prediction right now if you guys haven't seen it in any other videos. So, okay, starting with, let's see, Steve and Noy, I think they'll both say yes. And I think that they will make it past decision day. Even though she's looking like sketchy and skeptical and stuff like that, I still think they'll say yes. Okay, so next would be Mark and Lindsay. I think Mark and Lindsay are going to say yes. Next, we have Jasmina and Mike. I think they'll say no. And I guess lastly would be Katina and Olajuwon, if I'm not missing anyone else. I unfortunately think that they will stay together. And that's it. We shall see. So next week is going to be a cocktail-worthy episode. So let's get all in our comfortable pajamas. Are you guys going to do watch parties? What are you going to do? Do you have any ideas? I mean, I'm not going to do a watch party on here because I figure, what's the point of me like sitting on here and then, I can't play the audio and stuff like that. It just doesn't really make much sense. So I would just tune back in with you guys next week and we'll see who chose who, and we can curse and scream and do all that good stuff and have lots of fun. So if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so you can find out what other videos I'm reviewing and when I come out and do these lives. Let's see. Share it with a friend if you have someone who you might think might be interested in watching. And that's it. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. And che pisalacho. See you next week, guys. Bye.